something for status at that point.
Yes, but wait. Why do people buy notebooks? And notebooks have been under $1,000 for a long time. But notebooks were not far.
You can buy 2 high-powered notebooks.
Not high. Wait a minute.
For the price of a
high-powered in comparison to what you could buy 4 years ago. Not high-powered in terms of what is available today.
I'm talking about today. You could buy 2 very good notebooks for the price of a top-of-the-line iPad.
Oh, wait a minute. We're getting way too off topic.
Hey,
my point is
you're talking about notebooks.
No, my point is notebooks, which are desktop-driven, at least until the Chromebook, and the Chromebook is very cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Just throwing that out there.
And then you have Windows 8 coming up.
And who knows how that's going to change things. I don't know. But the point is that people could buy notebooks. And when they were buying notebooks, it wasn't far off from the pricing structure of an iPad. You can buy, a notebook for, I think, a good solid $500, right? You could get a notebook that would last you a few years and might have not been the great gaming, I guess, appliance that some of the great notebooks are out there. It's not an Alienware machine, but it's a good workable notebook. The issue is, and the thing that people always said about tablets, and I still say this, is that they lack functionality of a notebook.
And that's one reason why I find all these articles that pop up every few weeks about the death of the PC are ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous. In fact,
it's pretty ridiculous.
No, it's factual.
Well, for certain applications, applications, you could do all your work with a tablet.
I disagree completely. Listen, here's the thing.
I'd like that. Okay, here's something. Yeah. iMovie. That's another big thing that they talked about today in their press conference. Yep. iMovie. You can use your iPad to do this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Serious.
It's not Final Cut Pro.
No, it's not even Windows Movie Maker.
No, it's not.
Anyone who seriously wants to edit a movie or a video is going to use a PC.
So I understand,
and I include Apple's.
But why?
With that.
But my point is, why
Apple
is
PCs.
Right? But why is that? It's not because of the limitation of technology.
It's because touching
is a user interface. It's not.
But my point is that at some point, just having a cursor on the screen is so much. At least unless someone comes up with something way crazy intuitive that no one else has thought of, using a cursor on the screen is so much more useful than poking around with a finger.
And I get you with that.
For serious intensive applications.
I understand what you're saying, but what you're identifying is a user interface difference, not a technological difference. It is just... So, in other words, the only thing that's a difference between the notebook and the tablet at that point is the form factor and the software. That's it. And if it's form factor and software, then there's no reason why, like you said, some bright people that are yet to make millions of dollars come up with a new user interface that is more closely related to a desktop but works on a tablet. And there's no reason you couldn't do the same kind of things on a tablet.
Next John Rockefeller.
But my point is it's inevitable. That's inevitable. It's already started.
Probably.
The post-PC era has already started.
It's started, but it's not coming to fruition anytime soon.
No one's saying that.
No.
Wait a minute. No, wait.
You need to read, CNET more often. People are saying this all the time.
No, wait. The post-PC era has started. PCs aren't going to die in 5 years. Now, could some of the PC manufacturers out there go out of business in 5 years? You bet your ass they could.
Yeah, okay. Like I was saying, that's what I was saying before. In certain applications, you can go ahead and use an iPad for everything you need.
Yes.
But they're pretty...
niche.
Yes. And you know what's a good one, though? Schools.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. That's cool.
However, buying tons of iPads for a school system...
Yes.
If your local school system is doing that, you should request your tax check back, because they're just wasting money there. Because, as we were talking about before... You can buy way cheaper
and
equally
schools have different reasons for doing things like that. Obviously, there is a cachet involved in buying iPads that make people want to go to school there.
But you know what? That's the problem.
I get it. Look, I agree with you.
That's why people buy these in the first place. It's mostly cachet.
So I think there is a lot of cachet that goes with an iPad. That's undeniable. My point is the functionality and the usability to do Office applications. And do applications for things that are, I guess, more productive in nature, happen to be done very well on an iPad. Not everything, which is the reason I don't want to buy one, but I think it's coming along. And I think it's coming along at a rate that is much, much faster than the PC ever evolved. And that's why people are making the predictions they are about the PC. All right.
Cool.
We've spent a lot more time on this than I think we probably wanted to. And I think at the end of the day, there are a lot of reasons why people would want to buy iPads. And as I say, I don't really even have a need for it, but I've thought about it. And one of the reasons why is because I hate notebooks. I've always hated notebooks, and I don't ever want to have a notebook. And now all people buy are notebooks, and I just want to throw my notebook out the window.
You're going to do what I'm probably going to do. Is look at really long and hard at the Kindle Fire too.
Yes. So but the point is, I still want to get a tablet of some kind that is my home kind of device, and then, all of a sudden, then we move into away from the PC. That's the point. All right. Now the moment that we have been teasing for a while as you update the screen is we want to talk a little bit about some generational differences today. We want to talk about causality. And we want to talk about something that I think would probably be near and dear to many of your hearts out there as loyal fans of the Clan of the Grey Wolf. And that is, I think, that you see a lot of articles nowadays, and there are a lot of very famous writers kind of tackling this subject, of folks pointing at, let's say, our generation, the millennials generation.
Our generation. Full disclosure.
Yes.
One of us recently turned 30.
Yes.
And the other one is shortly going to.
Don't remind me.
Yes. So when we say our generation.
Yes.
Well,
no, I mean the millennials is a generation you can go look up on.
It's a definition. It's a fuzzy definition, but
it's fuzzy.
Generally accepted as,
or fuzzy anyway.
For whatever reason, generally accepted as 1982 to late 90s.
Yeah.
I've seen anywhere from 95 to 2000.
Right.
So essentially, if you're watching this now and you're anywhere from teenager to 30, you're a millennial.
Right.
Or Generation Y, which
Generation
I hate
Y. I like
because that's too connected to Generation X. It's not.
Well, I mean, if it's X and you go to Y, it's a process. It's the things that
what happens when you hit Z?
Or then you start back at double A. Haven't you ever used Excel? Wow. Anyway, all right. So millennials.
So that's what millennials.
They get cast in, let's just say, a fairly negative light for a lot of different reasons. Okay, called the lazy generation,
Peter Pan generation.
Peter Pan generation.
Don't want to grow up
because we're all like Michael Jackson.
The boomerang generation.
The boomerang generation because we love the Boomerang channel.
Yes, or living with our parents.
Well,
we don't specifically like living with our parents, but there are a large portion of 20-year-olds that go to college and then come back. Now, is that because they're lazy? Is that because they're playing video games every day?
Well, then,
or is it because
you're bringing up that's the next thing, right? So we are known.
Let me bring this up,
and you don't have to go too far to find this. We are also known as the video game generation, right?
Well, right. Well, I mean, millennials as a generation, one of their traits is being one of the first generations to really grow up with the internet.
Yes.
And all this booming technology from the 80s and the PCs.
Which I would argue is why the iPad is so damn popular. But anyway, that's another story.
Yes.
So I think we want to ask some questions about what what's really I guess being portrayed with that. Like, first of all, are we looking at an accurate description? Are we really is this true about our generation? Are people more lazy now than they've ever been before?
Well, there are. I mean, so again, when we're talking about these generations, this is essentially an America-centric, maybe Anglo-American, and a little bit wider, perhaps Western world kind of position, but mostly American. We have
white and nerdy.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you have what's called the Greatest Generation or GI generation.
Dumb Brokaw.
Exactly, and that's the one that fought in World War II, and they're like.
Cool and stuff.
Yeah, they were born from like 1901 to 1926 or so.
Yep.
After that, you have the Lost generation, or I'm sorry, the Silent generation, because apparently no one really heard much from them. That was from like 1927 to 1945, approximately. Yeah. And then after that, you have the baby boomers.
Right. The boomies.
Which is like 46 to about 63.
Post World War II.
Post World War II. Yep. Literally because so many people came from the war and had babies.
Yes.
And so right now you're looking at these current generations. You have the baby boomers are the ones in control.
Right.
Baby boomers are mostly in Congress.
Yep.
Most of Congress is baby boomer. The president's a baby boomer. The last two presidents have been 3 presidents have been baby boomers.
Yep.
And they're the ones in control right now.
Right.
Past that, you have
They're the man.
Basically. From around 63 to 80-ish, you have Gen X.
Yes.
The disaffected youth.
Yes.
That are no longer youthful.
The Pepsi youth?
Maybe.
Generation Next?
Yes.
Clear Pepsi?
These are the people that came up with Nirvana.
Oh, okay. I know those people.
Right.
Yeah, I know those guys. They're cool. They're good people.
They're good. They've mostly kind of acclimated to the world as it is.
Yes.
Become businessmen and so forth.
Right. Thrived in the situation presented to them by the baby boomers.
Right. And so they grew up. Their formative years were in the 70s for the most part, where there was a counterculture, and they were, things were bad, kind of, in America at that time.
Recession,
Vietnam
gas prices,
War, blah, 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 blah.
Right, gotcha.
They grew up with that background, but they weren't, like activists like the baby boomers. They weren't like going nuts.
Actively
completely rebelling.
Kind of overthrowing the...
It was more like a quieter...
Yeah, right.
Me.
So they were Beaker. Beaker from the Muppets?
Singing Green
Good.
Day.
Okay, cool, yeah.
And then you have...
I'm not even going to try to do that. I would do it, but it would hurt my voice.
And then you have millennials.
And they have millennials. So millennials...
So we grow up.
We grow up.
In a time.
In a time.
In a place.
We grow up. In a place. In a world. Where the internet is everywhere.
And the term millennial, I guess, comes from because we came of age at the new millennium.
Yes.
I guess.
Yes.
It's still better than Generation Y.
Yes. Yes.
But
all right. So now that we've brought everybody through the whirlwind history.
Now let's talk about the Civil War generation.
Yeah, let's talk about the Civil War generation, which was crotchety. No, let's talk about. So, do you think we have a fair assessment of the millennials as being different somehow or distinctive from other generations in regard to our view of the world,
as opposed to recent generations?
Okay, fair enough.
Yes.
Okay.
And I say that for the most part because we grew up in a very peaceful time.
Okay.
For the most, there's a term at the end of the Cold War where people were calling it the end of history. Now, obviously, they were wrong. Right. But what do they mean by that? They meant all the exciting things are done, basically.
Right.
The Cold War's over.
Yep.
Peace. There's going to be just democracy spread. Peace throughout the world.
With the crazy sheer audacity that marks most generations.
The audacity of hope.
The audacity of hope. Yes. Yes. Which it is fairly audacious, I would say, to say this is the end of all of history.
Right. Obviously, it was wrong.
Right.
And I'm including Canadians in this too because we share such a close cultural bond.
Correct.
So
also,
looking at you, Akira,
and also the war to end all wars. Oh, actually, both of them.
The Cola Wars.
Yeah, the Cola Wars.
What?
The wars to end all wars. Kind of didn't.
You mean Nintendo versus
Genesis?
Sega.
Of course,
yeah.
We know that. And they didn't. They, as much as they tried to continually break down and end all wars, they didn't do it. Anyway, so all right, we get characterized as, and this is very interesting. We talked about this a lot at the Clan of the Grey Wolf. The idea of the stigmatization,
yes,
of video game playing as a kind of central tenet of the millennial generation.
Mm-hmm. And partially X.
Akin to browsing the internet, those kinds of things, right? They lead to gaming. That's kind of a subset of that internet information culture,
which leads to drugs and whoring.
Of course, but that's not in contention here.
Right.
What is in contention is how do we think that's being portrayed, and do we think it's accurate in terms of describing the millennials?
Well, so millennials today have come of age adulthood, or started to come into adulthood, just as the September 11th, the net crash.
That's right.
Dot-com bubble. Dot-com bubble is a better way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And the housing crisis, which led to the current recession, the Great Recession, I think will probably be what history
The Great
calls it.
Recession. Cool. I like that. That's good.
You never heard that?
Never heard that.
I've heard that quite a bit. I think it's pretty accurate.
I don't watch Jim Cramer.
But
You looked
anyway,
at me like that. Anyway, go ahead.
so things are rougher for us.